ladies and gentlemen? Welcome into Snow The Goalie, the only Flyers podcast, the People's Podcast, Players Podcast, Prognosticators Podcast, Pedialyte Podcast, the Trevor Zegras Podcast. Danny Brier, the Danny Briera has continued. Phase 2, prepare the battleships. We have a team. There is going to be excitement around the Philadelphia Flyers this season. Podcast. I'm Russ Joy on Twitter at JoyOnBroad. Anthony SanFilippo is here. He had one hell of a morning. I'm sure he'll detail that, or maybe he won't, but he's had an interesting morning. Fella, here we are. Trevor Zegras is now a Philadelphia Flyer. How you feeling?
I owe the people something, Russ. What the fuck? So here was my morning, okay? And we'll get into Trevor Zegras. There's a lot to talk about. So I go into work today, downtown, right? Yeah. And there's a gas leak at the office.
Yeah.
Right? So got to leave. So contact you. Say, hey, listen, I know we were going to go at 9:30. Yeah. No shot I could do this.
I'm not. By the way, 9:30. I was locked. Loaded.
I'm not setting up shop in some coffee shop in the city and going to sit there and blather on about the Flyers, pull out a microphone and sit in some coffee shop in front of other people and do this, right? So I'm not going to do that. So I said to you, so let's push it back. Give me time to drive home. So I said, okay, fine. We're going to drive home. You forced it upon me to go 10:45.
Well, because you were saying like 11.
Well, I said by the time I get to my car, it was like 9:20. I got to drive, get to my car, drive all the way home, get reset back up. You said 10:45. I'm like, okay, fine. I get here in time.
Said 10:30, and I said, will 10:45 work for you? You said, yeah, that's fine.
And I got here in time. Mm-hmm. And you weren't here. Not only were you not here, you're texting me saying, hey, do you still need more time? And I'm like, I'm sitting in the studio, and you're not here.
I got on a call, a work call. Pulled me in, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is like a 5-minute catch-up. And it became like 20-something minutes. And so here we are. Anyway, I'll tell you what. Here's where we're at, though, okay? We're here. Bundy is preparing for his daughter's wedding this week. And we wish the Bundy family a lot of love this week. Very exciting times in their family. So I know that you and Bundy and Mertitas and Meltzer, right?
Yeah.
Did a crossover show that's going to hit the feed later this week. And then, of course, we're going to be doing something on Friday. We should probably, I guess, give people a little bit of an idea of, like, what's going on Friday. I don't know how in-depth we want to go about it, but we will be doing something. Like, there will be a show.
Well, let's tell them.
This week.
Let's tell them, okay?
I don't know if I want to, though.
Well, I'm going to tell them. I don't care. I'm in a mood today. I'm going to tell them.
Wow. Why in such a mood?
Everything got thrown off, so I'm in a mood.
Yeah.
No, we will be in Atlantic City, where the Flyers are having their draft party at the Hard Rock Casino. We are not part of the draft party, though. That said, we are going to be set up right near the war room where everything is taking place. We will have multiple guests on the show. So it's not for public. So like the public can't come hang out with us where we're going to be set up because we're in a part of the hotel that is kind of cordoned off from the public because this is where the Flyers are doing all of their draft stuff. But people should, if you're watching the draft from home, you should actually tune in to Snow The Goalie because we will have live content from the draft on the first night. And we will have plenty of guests from the Flyers popping in. Got a few surprises. Those are the things we won't tell anybody what the surprises are. But we will be down there and we will be providing you minute-to-minute coverage. And it'll be me and you and intern Andrew will be there. He'll be the breaking news desk for us. Bundy, like you said, won't be there because it's his daughter's wedding. But he did say to me yesterday, he said, Ant, make sure you guys send me the link. I want to pop in from the wedding while I'm in my tuxedo and say hi to everybody. So So we're gonna have we'll have a little bit of a surprise from Bundy popping in.
Well, we'll see. I mean, in fairness, like there are more important things going on in his life, you know. Like
he's got a call for it. He'll do it. Like, dude is so pumped. He was so pumped up for it too yesterday. Like he's really in a good spot, right? He's in a real good spot. So that's what we got coming for Friday. I will be covering. I'll be down there. I'll be down there on Saturday as well. We won't be doing a show from there on Saturday, but I will be there as well to talk. I'll be putting stuff out on social media and writing for On Pattison, so you guys will have a lot of coverage from us.
So Landros 2 says, "Why on earth are you guys not part of the Flyers party? The asshole was fired." I'm going to say this because I'm all about transparency on the show.
Yeah. It's not about them.
I'm all about transparency. I'll get myself in trouble, but I don't really care. We had an idea. We had a plan. We proposed a plan to the Flyers. I thought we were in really good standing to do it. It would have been sensational. There are other rights things that got in the way. I'm still not happy about it. I still think it's a crock of shit. I still think the fact that it took so long for us to get resolution there was bullshit. All of that said, they are now in the position of kind of like a make good. And so to Ant's point of like why we're doing this a little bit different, like listen, we could have very easily said, we're going to go set up a watch party. We could have done it at La Sicilia. We could have done it at a number of other restaurants and bars. And when we talked to the Flyers, we said, look, in order for this to make any kind of sense, after we proposed a couple of things and we're trying to figure something out, like it's got to be good. It has to be unique. There has to be something about it that sets itself apart. This is going to be that. Like there are enough people that are going to be coming on Friday's show, and the fact that we're going to be set up right by the war room, all we can really tell you is you're not going to be in the war room, but you're probably going to have a lot of the thinking of the war room. And that by the time the night ends, being with us through the draft is probably going to be the place that you're going to get the most intel, the most insight, and have a real good idea of why things transpired the way they did over the course of the night. That ultimately is what we landed on with the team. This is the beauty of a partnership. It's also the imperfections of a partnership. The fact that we've now figured this out. I made Ann uncomfortable, but I'll be the one who gets in trouble, not him. This is a good middle ground. Next year, shit better get figured out a lot better, assuming we extend into a year 4. But for now, like this is good. We work with a lot of good people, so I do want to be very clear. We work with a lot of really good people at the Flyers who have all the best intentions in the world, and they are great people. And I think ultimately, like, year 3 is going to be the best year of the partnership. But, like, there are just, like, when you work with a corporation, you work with a big company, shit falls through the cracks all the time. And for better or worse, that kind of happened here. But we've kind of figured out, like, a nice middle ground. And I think ultimately, if you like this show and you enjoy this show and you've been riding with us this whole time, if we tell you that like it's going to be worth being with us on Friday, it's going to be worth being with us. Now, if you go to the Flyers party in AC at the Hard Rock, you're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
You can walk around that party, have your headphones in. You can listen to us jamokes, talk about things, bring you the intel, the insight. You can enjoy the party. If you're going to go to PHLY's party at, I think, Chickies and Pete's, or Broads' show at Chickies and Pete's, is it Glassboro, New Jersey? Like, I know he's got a big group that's going. I want you to go. I know that like in the past, we've done like faux rivalries with shows. If people are doing live shows and that's more your speed, you go, you have fun, you live it up. But the intel and the insight of what's happening in that room on Friday at the draft will come from us. That is an undisputed reality. So there we go. There's the pitch, baby cakes. Like that's where we are.
Yeah.
I think it's fair, right? Let's see.
So
Did I get any angry texts yet? No.
No.
I'll be maybe by like 2.
They're coming. You'll get them.
They'll go to you. They'll go to you.
Yeah, they'll come to me and be like, "What the hell with Russ?"
That's exactly.
And of course, I'll say, "Yeah, give him a call. Talk to Russ. Talk to Russell.
Yeah.
Send him a message." Anyway,
it'll be fun. So Friday is going to be a lot of fun. It's just going to be a different feel. Like it's not going to be the raucous crowd that like a press road show would be. It's not going to be the raucous crowd of like yelling at people after the game, but you know, it's good.
There's a lot of people who are now complaining that we're not talking about the trade, right? Yet, and I'm going to do it right now, right? So here we go.
There was a trade.
10 minutes in, we were still out talking hockey, right? And then we got Russell, your namesake, Russell Grabowski, get to the actual trade. And I will say,
you got this one. Hold on, Russ building up brotherly love with the other podcast after the clowns kept that. Oh no, fuck those guys. Like, I'll be clear. I just told you that if you want to go to PHL, I want you to think about how much we used to get into it, like subtweeting and shit with Broad Street Hockey. If you go to their party, have fun. If you go to Bros' party, have fun. Some of these dipshits that were doing stuff on Sunday, oh no. They don't get love from me. I mean, all the best to them. But clowns. And the fact that those people have been going around for like the last few days trying to take a victory lap about Shabanov and try to make it seem like they have intel. I just want you to know there's one thing that is true.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
I said there was a new sound drop. I said a new sound drop was coming.
I had no idea that was coming.
I told you.
That's hysterical.
I told you.
Oh man, that's hysterical.
Anyway,
yeah,
we're off the rails on a Tuesday. I guess let's get into the Trevor Zegras trade.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the Zegras thing, right? I know everybody's excited about it, and I will say up front that it's a very good trade by the Flyers because they gave up nothing. Right, and so this is a potential really good lottery ticket, right? This is like if a lottery ticket existed where you have to hit 5 numbers to win the lottery, and they gave you the first 4, and now you just have to get one of the last 5 right, and then you win the lottery, right? So this is a good lottery ticket to have. That said, I wouldn't. If I were Flyers fans, and I know that they overreact to everything, I wouldn't go too far right now with this because there are still some question marks with Trevor Zegras that cropped up in Anaheim. The Flyers are banking on the fact that a change of scenery will bring out the best in him, that getting him out of that environment in Anaheim will revert him back to the player he was his rookie year and his second year. And if that happens, it's an overwhelming boon for the Flyers, right? But if he comes in here and he has a lot of the same problems that he had in Anaheim, fans are going to be disappointed, right? But it's certainly right, and as David Waitman said, he needs to be healthy too, because he's had some injuries in the past couple of years. So there's that as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an important thing. So here's another thing and Landros is saying this too, and moving back to center, screaming it because that's where his best production was. But you know what the biggest thing with him is? What's criticism of his game was the fact that he was not good in the middle of the ice. So while he was a productive offensive player, he was killing the Ducks in the middle of the ice. And so the Flyers are hoping that they can get him to play the way. Look, he's never going to be a perfect two-way player. Right? That's not what he's good at. But you do have to at least be somewhat of a responsible player on it. You can't be taking shifts off. You can't be a lazy player. You can't have a bad attitude. And those were things that cropped up with him in Anaheim that cannot happen here. But the Flyers look at it and say, hey, listen, he's under contract for a year. Let's see how the year goes. If the year is good, great, then we can sign him and bring him in longer term. If the year is not good, if it's still some of the same from Anaheim, what did it cost us? It cost us Ryan Poehling and a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick. Like, it didn't cost us a lot, right? Yep. So it's a good risk-reward thing for the Flyers. It's a very good trade. But I wouldn't overreact that this is some amazing deal until you see what Trevor Zegras does with the Flyers.
Trevor Zegras could puke all over himself, and it's still a good trade. He could legitimately vomit everywhere. He could literally chunder everywhere. It would still be a good trade. Why? Because there is literally no downside. He makes $5.75 million this season. Then he's an RFA. Let's play out the hypotheticals, because it was said that in Anaheim, they were looking at him more as a wing, right? And their GM came out and said he wants to play center. Danny said we want to give him that look at center. It's up to Tocchet, but like we want to give him that look at center, right? Paling, wonderful player, bottom six forward. Great guy, well-liked, good player, bottom six forward. Number 45 overall pick. Could amount to something. You just never know. Could also be a total whiff. No one knows. Fourth round pick, if that ends up turning into anything of substance, will be an anomaly in the fourth round. Like if that ends up becoming, I don't know, like the new version of like Kaprizov or something, you go, all right, well, good on Anaheim for finding that guy in the fourth round. But legitimately, you are looking at a second round pick, which was one of four, right? You already had a bevy of picks in the second round. It doesn't affect you that much. A fourth round pick that shouldn't matter, and a bottom six forward. And what you've gotten back is either, it is a lottery ticket to an extent, but it's a good lottery ticket, right? Like if you're finally getting a guy that you have had interest in for at least a couple of years, you are potentially giving a dynamic center to your best up-and-coming winger, your superstar winger in Matvei Mishkov, right? Now, they might not play together all the time, but they're going to give it a look. You might want to, flank him with guys that have been in this, have been in this league a little bit longer, like a Tippett and a Konechny, whatever that ends up looking like. You get to see this guy. You get to see how he fits your system, how he plays in front of these fans, how he plays for this coach, who, by the way, is in the first year, so this isn't like we can always change coaches next year if it doesn't work. At the worst case scenario, right? He doesn't work at center. They try him at wing. It doesn't work there. Next year, peace out, Cub Scout. Or you try to bring him back at an even more manageable number. Or there's another team out there who thinks they can fix him, and maybe they trade for the rights, and you get some kind of asset back for the exclusive negotiating rights, right? All of these things can happen. There's literally no downside to it. He could effectively not play. Like, obviously, you don't hope for injury. But, like, he could not play, and you still say, this is a worthwhile gamble to take. And he's 24.
No, it's 100%.
So, like, it's a good deal. I haven't even seen that many people say a negative thing about it. Think of that, Ant. Like, it's very rare that we get, like, a pretty much across the board, good job, Danny. Lawton trade was one. This is another.
Well, let me throw a little bit more into this, Russ, and say why it was a really good move by Brier, and it should give people confidence in Brier as a general manager. Mm-hmm. As you said, they were interested in him 18 months ago, right? Like this goes back to prior to the 24 trade deadline, and at the time when I first was hearing about them having interest in Trevor Zegras, the cost was high. It was very high. It was a first-round pick plus. And Briere, at the time, said, no, I'm going to wait. And then he held on. He waited till the summer, checked in again. No, I'm going to wait. Then at the trade deadline or just before the trade deadline this past year, there was talk that the Ducks were interested in Joel Farabee. This was right before he was traded to Calgary, right?
Yep.
And there was some conversation between Briere and Verbeek then. And once it got to that point, now obviously Danny was willing to trade Farabee to the Ducks for Zegras, but the Ducks said no. The Ducks backed off, and as Brier said in his press conference yesterday, most of the time it was the Ducks weren't ready to let go of him, and that was an example of it, right? But Danny knew then that if he still wasn't moved at the deadline, right, that price had already started to come down. He was not having another good year. He was in a bad spot in Anaheim. If Joel Farabee and a pick wasn't going to be enough, just imagine what it will be like when you get to the draft in the summer. So his patience really paid off over time. Having Trevor Zegras here in February or last year at the trade deadline wouldn't have made this team any better.
Yeah.
Having him going forward, it may make the team better now, but he got him for a song. Whereas if he was an overreactive first-time general manager a year and a half ago, he would have paid way too much for him. So good on Danny for letting it go this long and waiting out Verbeek. And I think that sends a message to the rest of the league too, that Danny means business with this. Like he's going to put a certain value on a guy, and that's it, and that's what it's going to be. And you're not going to pull one over on him just because he's new at this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a really good deal. I mean, one of the things that we kind of knew, I talked about this yesterday on the Russ Joy Show, where you get your podcast. If you think about like this rebuild in phases, right? When they got Mishkov, there was probably a plan here to tear this thing down maybe a little bit more, to try to get even more assets, and that by the time Mishkov came over in the 26-27 season, they'd be ready to go into phase 2 if they hadn't started it already. And I do fundamentally believe that Mishkov coming over early changed their calculus on this a little bit. They are very clearly in phase 2. Phase 2 is, like, phase 1 was getting contracts out of here. Phase 1 was also getting rid of players that you ultimately didn't see hitting their ceiling. So contracts out of the way, moving Provorov, getting guys out of here who you didn't think were going to have a higher ceiling, Frost and Farabee. And now you move into phase 2. Low risk, high reward guys, Trevor Zegras. You might end up seeing them move some of that draft capital on Friday for another roster player. Pretty much this is the fun of being a Flyers fan, right? For the longest time, they were in on everybody. They were in on every trade. They were in on every free agent. They were in on every rumor. What's been happening the last week and a half, Ant? Any name that's been floated out there, Bo Byram, Paterka, you're seeing goalies. You saw the report yesterday from, was it Richmond, who said Flyers are among one of the teams trying to significantly, Strickland, trying to significantly improve their goaltending. They are in everything. The wildest part about it is this move itself and what it was going to take flew entirely under the radar. It's the second time that's happened. That to me is notable. They are out in the ether, like they're out in public on certain things, but when it comes to actually getting in and getting a deal done, this Zegras thing, mostly under the radar. It's interesting.
Mostly. By the way, just not that this is big news, but breaking news.
Is there breaking news? Do I need to make a banner? I can make a banner.
No, okay. It's not that big of a deal. Flyers preseason schedule is out. So for anybody who wants to go to a preseason game, they will play 7 preseason games, 3 at home at the X. Is that what we're calling it, by the way?
I think
Xfinity
we call it the
Mobile
X.
Arena.
Yeah, I think we call it the X. Yeah,
okay.
I think so.
At the X. So they played the first 3 are all on the road. Sunday, September 21st, my anniversary, at the New York Islanders. Tuesday, the 23rd, at Montreal. Thursday, the 25th, at Washington. First home game. Saturday, September 27th, against the Boston Bruins. Monday, the 29th, in Boston. And then the last 2 games at the X will be Thursday, October 2nd, against the Islanders, and Saturday, October 4th, against the Devils. Not that anybody will care about those 2 games because, well, at least the last one for sure, because A, the Flyers won't play anybody who's going to play in the regular season in the last preseason game, and secondly, probably a Phillies playoff game that day. So yeah, that one is
that's pretty bold.
Yeah. So therefore,
they take the NL East lead back, and now all of a sudden you're back in on them fighting Phils.
Well, I've always felt they're a playoff team. I just, they're probably going to play a game on that Saturday. Anyway, point being, so that's out there now. I did see a question earlier, and I forget who asked it, and it was way earlier. You might find it if you scroll back. I'm not going to go looking for it. But somebody asked about, the Flyers bringing James Higgins in, taking him out around the training center, taking him out to dinner. Everybody's kind of getting excited by that. And I think that people are trying to link that to what they did clandestinely with Mishkov a couple years ago. Yeah, okay, there you go. So, yes, this happened. This did happen. I'll tell you, I think it's a smoke and mirrors type of thing. I think the Flyers are trying to make people think they are more interested in him. Maybe if
Friedman also put it out there, I think yesterday, right? He put out that there's a growing belief the Flyers could take young Higgins at number 6.
I look, if so, then this is the most clandestine that I've seen them be in a while, because everything I hear is their preference, assuming Misa is 2 or 3, right, which is going to happen, is Desnoyers. They don't think he's going to be there at 6. And then either, and this is where there's been a little bit of a shift in the last couple of days, or maybe since last week when we talked, either Jake O'Brien or Brady Martin. Now, Martin has always been on their list. I just think that he's kind of come even with O'Brien at this point, and I think that they prefer that one of them go before 6 to make that decision like for them, like kind of easy. But I think I think that those are the two guys that they would prefer. Now, there is a world where all three of them are gone in the top 5. I don't know if it happens, but you don't know with Utah. Utah's always the wild card at 4. Do they trade out of that spot? Do they pick somebody that no one's expecting them to pick at 4? Like, there's a lot of things that can happen in that spot. If that were the case and all three of them were gone, then that would mean somebody fell out of the top 5 that they were not expecting. Maybe an Anton Frondell, right, would be the guy that would fall. I got to imagine, because I can't see any of the I can't see Misa falling that far. We know Schaefer's going 1. So, like, that would be the only thing that could conceivably happen. I still think they would take Frondell ahead of Hagens. I think Hagens is further down their list. Now, something could be completely, everybody I talk to could be coordinatedly BSing me. I don't think that's the case, because I don't think everybody knows that each other talk to me, right? So I think that could be a thing. I don't think that could be a thing, but one never knows. But I don't think Hagens is on their list that high.
Let me throw this to you. Okay?
Yeah.
You ready to catch? Put your hands up.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Gotta catch.
Yeah.
Gotta catch. All right, there you go.
I even made the diamond, like you're supposed to catch.
Love it. Love that. Say Hagens is there at 6, but like Hagens isn't their guy. He's not their guy. But there are a lot of teams that are interested in Hagens.
Yeah.
Could they take Hagens and then flip him? Like, could they theoretically say, you know what, we might like Brady Martin, but we think that if we put extra pressure on some of those teams behind us, like maybe they don't find the trade back deal that they really want because the belief is that they would pass on Hagens. Could they take him and then end up getting one of those teams that they had talked to moving back about and like apply just that little bit of pressure, or is that like a little bit too risky? I mean, Hagens is a good player though, so it's not like you're taking a shitty player, right?
No.
Like you're taking a really good player. Like if you walk away from 6 and say we got Hagens, like not a lot of people are going to complain, right?
Well, no,
but I don't know. Do you run that risk?
People aren't going to complain because people have been told that this guy is one of the top prospects in the draft for 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh my God, he fell to the Flyers. That's great. But let's be honest. How many people are sitting there watching James Hagens in person? Like, anybody in this room? Raise your hand. Let us know if you've watched him in person. Go on and see him, right? More than once and watched his game, right? Like, so that's the thing. Like, to me, yes, could you in essence, but you have to have that deal in place. They're not going to take the guy and cross their fingers and hope somebody would then trade for him at that point. I think that I think that deal would have to be in place. Now, could they conceivably get to 6 and go, okay, our guy that we want to pick is going to be there at 8 or 9. That team wants to jump up and get Hagens at 6. Maybe we flip it and let that happen. We get something else in return. Yeah, sure. And we talked about that on the last show, that I think that there's a chance of trading down, depending on how everything falls on Friday night. But I don't see it happening the way you just described.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to throw it out there. Thought it'd be fun. We're just here for the hypotheticals.
Yeah.
One of the names that obviously has been rumored to be one that could fall, but I think has certainly improved because of the good injury update was McQueen. I continue to just cross my fingers and my tootsie toes that he falls into the early teens and Danny decides to make the big balls move up and get him. I'm now seeing mocks and rankings that are putting him somewhere in that 8 to 9 range. So it certainly appears as though there might be some scuttlebutt within league circles that teams that might have not been as willing to take that swing because of the back issue, maybe they've come around. Maybe they are seeing better reports and they're feeling a little bit better about the idea of moving up or of taking him at that spot. Do you think that by the time Friday rolls around, do we see McQueen go off the board before number 10? Or do you think that there is still a legitimate chance that he falls into that 13, 15 range?
Somebody I talked to who would have a real feel for this thinks he's going to go around 10.
Okay.
Yeah. That's about where he's going to go. Somewhere in that spot. Like close to that spot. That's where they think he's going to end up. So I don't think that the Flyers can trade up to get him. Unless it starts really, really falling, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't think that's a viable possibility. No.
I'll still hold out hope for a few more days. Just a few.
Yeah.
Just a few. What else did you want to get into? I see lots of comments and questions over in the side panel here.
Yeah, well, we could pull up questions if people want. I mean, I think we should probably talk about.
You have thoughts like this,
Shabanov.
by the way, that McQueen. There are some in the comments that say they'd rather see the Flyers take McQueen at 6 over Brady Martin. People listen, for better or worse, and again, it comes back to how much of you actually watch of these players. There are a lot of people who seem very down on the idea of drafting Brady Martin at 6.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have a super chat here from Brandon Ficara. Thank you, Brandon. Says, I went to game 1 in Edmonton with the Panthers owners. Whoa.
Oh, nice.
The Zegras move, a Bill Zito kind of move. That's encouraging for Danny and us as a whole. That feels like a flex there, doesn't it? A little bit, Brandon. A little flex there. I like that.
We got to figure out why Brandon Ficara is hanging out with the Florida Panthers owners.
Yeah, good on him. All right.
Good stuff.
It does feel. I mean, listen. Anytime you can compare the move of a newish GM in Brier to the guy who's now built back-to-back cup-winning teams, not bad.
Yeah,
not bad at all.
Your former student has a question. I think it's something worth talking about. What is the likelihood the Flyers land Shabanov? Is it 90%, 50%? I think it's on the higher end at this point. There are a couple of things that have been. So here's just kind of give a little bit of background on this. I'll pull back the curtain. So Shabanov has an agency that represents him in Russia, right? But had not signed with an agency in North America. And apparently a deal was kind of sort of worked out a few weeks back with an agency here. It just wasn't publicly announced until recently. And while the Flyers had expressed interest in Shabanov and with the agency over in Russia, that let them all know this and that, as had many other teams, there was conflicting information coming back out of Russia, whether Shabanov was interested, what teams he was interested in. We had heard that it was really down to the Flyers and Vegas. I know Pittsburgh kind of tried to sneak in late with that. But that the agency over there kept poo-pooing everything that was being reported, right? That everybody was reporting. I wrote a story back in May about it, right? About where it is. Then this past weekend, Danny goes down to Miami for the pre-draft event that Milstein runs for Russian players in Miami. And he gets down there, and then all of a sudden, word gets out that Shabanov is coming to the Flyers, even though it's been denied. But that Shabanov has now chosen his agency, which was Cortex, is the agency that he chose to represent him in the NHL. And that the agency there has contacted teams and said he hasn't made a decision yet. That said, and this is not firsthand information because I've not spoken to Max Shabanov or anybody else that is directly involved with this, but apparently he has told people that he wants to come to Philadelphia. So I think this is a posturing kind of thing to say that they're going to wait till July 1 to just wait and see what else could possibly come out there. Look, it's a free player for any one of 32 teams to take. And if they want to try and get a guy like that, and who knows, maybe somebody's willing to blow them out of the water between now and then. So I wouldn't say it's 100% that he's coming to the Flyers, but this is where he wants to be. And I think that as long as somebody doesn't go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs with a contract for him, that this is where he's going to be, that he will end up with the Flyers.
It just seems like it's a total disaster class, right? Like, and it seems like this happens a lot with the Russian players and players moving from the KHL. Like you said, you have representation there, you have representation here. There have been things in the past where you hear that like a guy has a few people saying they're his agent, and you're trying to work through that. And the communication of this is difficult, right? This is why, for the longest time, as you specifically were efforting info on this, and you start doing some poking around, you wrote a thing in May about how there was a possibility, but there were a couple of other teams that were in. Then we saw the report in early June, I think it was early June, when Shabanov's agent came out, and his agent from over there came out and like forcefully said he has not made a decision. He will decide July 1st after free agency and draft, right? And that was kind of when a lot of the KHL players were supposed to make that choice. And I just kept saying that, like, based on the people, at least some of the people that I know that info would come from, the fact that they were definitively saying, no, there's no deal in place, would make me believe that there was, in fact, no deal in place, and that people who were going around saying, oh, yeah, he's signing, it was just a lot of sleuthing. This has been my issue, right? Like, and I think we talked about that on the show before. Sleuthing about, like, who follows who on Instagram might be a good indicator. And, like, in the past, has been like a decent indicator, but it's not a foolproof thing. And it's also not the same thing as finding out definitively, yes, this guy has put pen to paper, or yes, we have a verbal commitment, the contract is pending, he'll sign it July 1st. Like there's a vast difference there. So if he ends up over here, again, like joked at the top of the show, Zegras is here, it's going to be an exciting team to watch. Shabanov could be a lot of fun to watch. A Shabanov, Zegras, Mishkov line might never get out of its own zone, right? But if and when it gets into the offensive zone, baby, like it would be a lot of fun to watch. He's a small guy. He's a really skilled guy. Will he translate to the NHL? Will this team be able to support him? Like, will it work? Who knows? But that's the beauty of phase 2, right? Phase 2, low risk, high reward signings. He could be a hell of a get for them. And again, like for those who, for whatever reason, aren't aware, he was a finalist for the Golden Stick, their MVP award in the KHL. Like, he's certainly a good player. Will it translate to the NHL? No one knows. No one knows. I don't know. You don't know. The people in the comments, they don't know. Hell, a lot of front offices probably don't even know, right? But if nothing else, Rick Tocchet's got himself quite the set of tools in the arsenal, Ant, if he ends up coming over. You get Shabanov, Zegras, a lot of the guys that they believe are going to take that next step forward next season, and I don't think they're done. I'd be shocked if they don't make another deal between now and the end of the offseason. Tocchet's got to kind of be licking his chops here a little bit, I have to think, right?
Well, I mean, you would hope. I mean, yes, you would like to have an exciting team to start your season, right? I mean, I think that's fair. And we'll see what else gets done. Like, look, there's going to be other stuff that comes out, right, in the next week, that people are going to be surprised by. Let's just put it that way, right? I mean, we can't really say anything, but yeah, bookmark it.
Bookmark the 39-minute mark of this show.
Yeah, that there's something.
We'll come back next week. Yeah, we'll talk next week.
We'll talk about next week that you'll be like, oh okay. But
that gives an inflection though. You're supposed to be like neutral. There's no. It's just
okay. No, but there was something else that somebody brought up, and now I forget exactly what it was.
Well, here we have a super chat from Robert Thomas, which we say thank you, Robert. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Says, if they want Brady or O'Brien, could they get a player from someone like Buffalo to swap picks? This is the one that I like, by the way. Byram or Paterka could be a bigger trade. That's from Get Pucks Deep. That was trading back to 9, right? Like maybe one of those guys is available at 9, and you also get a roster player, and they get the better draft pick. Like, if they are trying to move off of Byram or Paterka, like, it's not a bad idea.
I don't think that's enough to get either one of those guys.
Throw in one of the other firsts. If you're that confident, let me rephrase it. If you're confident enough that Byram or Paterka could be a big enough contributor, then maybe you have that conversation about picks.
I think that they think Byram is. I think the concern there is what his contract demands are going to be. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it is. Right?
Could they work out that deal or the parameters of that deal, the skeleton of it, in the midst of a potential trade negotiation?
Could they? Yes, 100%. And I'll tell you that there's probably several skeletons of deals that Danny has based on possibilities, right? I mean, there always are. I mean, I'm not putting out anything there that's newsy. I mean, it's not. I mean, I think that good general managers have multiple things kind of in place, and that way, when the time comes and that pick comes up, it's like, okay, hey, can we do what we've already discussed instead of trying to throw something together in 5 minutes, right? You've already got the framework kind of in place, or you back out of something. You say, okay, that's not what we wanted. Okay, we're not going to do that deal at this point. But so I think a lot of those things are certainly there. And I know everybody's like, Ant talk, tell us what you know. Trust me, I will. It involves current.
Be careful.
Flyers. That's all I got to say. It has nothing to do with a trade. Has nothing to do with the draft. Just when it happens, it happens. You'll know.
Things might make sense. Nick Johnson, what are your thoughts of Luchenko, Bump, Barkey making the team out of camp?
So
I figured that's probably the one that you were looking at.
No, it's not. But it reminded me of the one that I wanted to bring up.
By the way, it's neither of these. Jeff DeCaro says Hart coming back or Konechny getting traded. It's not.
No, it has nothing to do with the trade. It has not. Well, it has nothing to do with trades. Nothing.
It has nothing to do with either of those guys.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Back to this.
Anyway. So the thing that I wanted to bring up was that there were a couple people talking about Isaac Howard, the Tampa guy. The team's not really interested in Isaac Howard, and the reason is because they think Denver Barkey is a better prospect than Isaac Howard, and they think that they're same position kind of players, and that's why the Flyers are more focused on getting Barkey to develop. I am not sure that Luchenko or Barkey make the team this year. I think Bump's got a better chance of that than Luchenko or Barkey, but I do think that they think all three are NHL caliber players. I think a lot will depend on what they look like in development camp next week. They're going to see them on the ice, and they'll have an idea. So,
Peter Tom Willis over on X says, "Talk Grabenkin, please."
Look, Grabenkin.
Forecheck, back check, paycheck.
I mean, look, I wouldn't get too excited about Grabenkin. He's a bottom of a lineup type player, but the way he plays is a style that people will enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I think that you need guys like that in your lineup if you're going to be a good team. Doesn't mean I'm not trying to say that he's like a pugilist. He's not a fighter. He's not one of those guys. But I think that I think that there's a certain energy that he brings to a game that will help. Yeah. That will help this team. So yeah, it's an interesting player.
Hey, get your hands ready. I'm going to throw to you again. You ready? I'm going to throw. You ready?
Go ahead.
All right. So, I think that Brier is doing a smart thing here. Follow me.
Yeah.
Zegras, right? I think they're going to give Zegras like the year at center. I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice not to, unless he totally falls on his face for the first half of the season. So he's probably your 2C. Couturier is going to float. You hope that another year removed from the back surgeries, he can play. I mean, in an ideal world, like he's back to being a 1C. They just don't They don't ride him the way the Torts did early in the season, right? But if not, you have some combo probably of Couturier and Zegras as your 1 and 2C, if all things go the way that you want them to. Cates as your 3C, and then whoever ends up being your 4C, right? Like that part probably doesn't matter as much. I think that what they've done here with the acquisition of Zegras, and again, they might go out and get another center. You just don't know. They're taking the pressure off of Lashenko to make the team. I think the worst thing that they could do for him is almost like force that issue where he's got to be on the team coming out of camp, or that you're willing to like overlook certain developmental milestones for the sake of having him on the team to start the season. I think the best thing for him, honestly, is for him to have another year to develop and not have the pressure and have the spotlight on him, because he made the team out of camp briefly last year. If he were to make the team out of camp this year and then he doesn't impress, which in fairness, like it's hard to impress right away. If it doesn't work the way that you want it to, he's going to face a lot of scrutiny that you maybe don't want him to face at this point. I would honestly think that they are more likely to acquire another center and try to have Lashenko spend another year developing. Maybe he's a late season call-up. Like, where are you at? Do you think that that's the case? Do you think that they are going to just try to give him every opportunity to make the team?
Well, I think if he's ready, they'll give him the opportunity. The question is he ready? And I'm not sure that he is. I'm just not. I'm just, it's not a knock on him. I just think that here's the problem that I think that they're debating, Is there real value? Does he develop any better going and playing a full season at Guelph with a team that's not very good in junior hockey? Or would he be better here, developing here? And yes, you don't want to develop at the NHL level, but there is a situation where, and this rule may eventually change here, with the way things are working with the NCAA and everything else. But, eventually under 20-year-olds might be allowed to go to the AHL. And if that's the case,
then it's
great. Then that's where you go and you put them. So now but until that happens, you have to debate, is it worth playing him limited minutes at the NHL level to make him a better player, or go back and play for a team that's really not going to, he's going to score a ton of points for a bad team in junior hockey. It's not really going to develop. And so his development kind of falls behind a little bit. So that's really what they have to debate. Right. Yeah. And I think that where he is this summer will dictate how far they're willing to go with that. And I don't think so. I don't think he makes the team. But I mean, look, if he comes in and he looks great in camp, maybe they decide that it's better to have him do that. So yeah. I'm not saying he can go to the NCAA. You're saying that a guy who's in his position in the future might be
a guy who's in junior who has not signed an ELC
can now go and play college hockey, whereas before they couldn't do that. As a result, there's been some conversation about changing the rule to allow players to go to the AHL before they turn 20 if they are drafted by an NHL team. So that's the conversation.
I think this is probably like the last major talking point for today. Andrew Fawcett with a super chat. Thank you, Andrew Fawcett. Says goaltending, ? I mentioned earlier, Andy Strickland put out that thing that the Flyers were like one of 4 teams that are trying to like, quote, significantly improve, end quote, their goaltending. Now, names like Demko have come up. There have been names like Jake Allen thrown out there, but I wouldn't say those represent a significant upgrade.
Yeah.
What the hell does significant mean, Ant?
Well,
like,
I don't.
Jake Ottinger, not available. We've talked about that contract. Pete DeBoer got the axe, so it's not him. Could Skinner be on his way out from the Oilers? And by the way, would that represent a significant upgrade? Yeah. I mean, over Alexei Kolasov it would. Do you exactly want Stuart Skinner? I'm not sure I do. What does significant look like? Because there's no free agent netminder coming up that I think would qualify as significant. Any ideas who he could be alluding to? Like who could be out on the market right now? Who could be on the trade block that we don't know about?
I have not gotten any names. I do know that they are looking hard at goaltending.
Okay.
That is a 100% thing that they're doing, and it would not surprise me if something gets done this week. But I've not heard any specific names. The one thing, I mean, if you want to put puzzle pieces together kind of thing, right? And again, this is not me, reporting it because I've not been told this, but if you're trying to put puzzle pieces together, I mean, you can look at a guy like Joel Hofer in St. Louis. Andy Strickland is a reporter in St. Louis, right? I mean, restricted free agent, but it really would depend on what the deal is there, right? Like, are you willing to give up that? We've talked about this last week with the RFAs. Like, are you willing to give up that pick for that player? And I'm not certain that they are, to be honest with you.
I guess it also comes down to the contract demands too. Can I throw this out at you real quick? Well, I have two. Remind me to come back to RFAs in a second.
Yeah.
On goaltending. If you had to put money on it, and your two choices are the Flyers go out and they get a guy who's meant to be the number one, which probably pushes Ersson to be the backup. Are they more likely to go make that kind of move to get a number one, or are they more likely to go get a guy who splits time, 60-40, whatever it is, with Ersson, and is maybe more of a backup or is maybe more of a, mediocre veteran goalie that's still an upgrade over Fedotov and Kolosov?
That one makes more sense.
The latter.
The latter makes more sense. But then again, not knowing who the number one goalie that could be available is, like, I mean, as of now, like you look around the league and you say, whoa, what number one goalie is going to be available? I can't come up with one, right? But that doesn't mean that conversations haven't been had about one. So it depends on who the guy is. But I still think it's the latter. I think it's somebody to split time with Ersson. That's what I honestly believe it is. So I mean, look, it's going to happen. I think you're going to see a lot taking place this week. It's a busy week and into next week. This is going to be a busy time for the Flyers, and Danny's going to really be shaping the team for the. We talked about it. How long have we been talking about it, Russ? That this was when we were going to learn about Brier as a general manager, and he was either going to show you something positive and be like, yeah, great, this is awesome, or he was going to be like leaving you feeling a little bit to be desired. And first step is a good one. With the Zegras deal, but I think he's going to go get a goalie. I think he's talking with other teams about other possibilities. The Buffalo stuff is very real. He's been in constant communication with them. But again, it's a situation where he's got to be patient. Like, he doesn't want to overpay, and you got to be careful with, contract demands of these players that you're potentially trading for too. So there's a lot of things you have to put into play, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're giving out bigger contracts to players, and then it kind of impedes the effort you're trying to make next season when you're going to be big game hunting in free agency.
By the way, I saw this in the comments. This came up a while ago, about a half hour ago. So Grant Shilley just put out hurdle to the Canes. It was put out on Twitter by Cam Robinson that there's smoke that Carolina could be bringing in hurdle. The idea is that it would free up Vegas to make like a 13-14 million AAV pitch to Mitch Marner, who they were rumored to be interested in around the trade deadline. So make of that what you will. That has not yet gone official, but it seems like there's some smoke there. I'm going to go back to the RFAs thing for a second.
Yeah.
I talked about this with Mertitas on my show yesterday. There seems to be this operating understanding, right, that anytime you talk about an offer sheet, people say, oh, you can't give up that shot for Gavin McKenna next year. And fundamentally, I agree with that. However, I've been on the record now for, about 6 months, that I think that this offseason, Brier was going to do enough to make this team, if not a playoff team, very close to it. I don't see a scenario where they're in the bottom 11 going into next year, into next year's draft. And we did see unprecedented jumps from the Islanders and Utah move up 10 spots. But in order for it to be a lottery ticket for Gavin McKenna, you have to have one of the 11 worst teams in the National Hockey League. And I fundamentally don't believe that's where this team's going to end up.
But the one thing you're not taking into consideration, and always has to be taken into consideration, is the unknown, right? I mean, seasons can go sideways for a variety of reasons.
Like significant injuries. Okay.
And injuries can hurt you, right? And that's a thing. And it's important to keep that in mind. Maybe you make that, maybe you make a decision that, let's see what the team looks like. And, oh, by the way, we're a playoff caliber team. Maybe we can go get a player in season with that draft pick, right? Yeah. That will help the team get even better, because now we know we're not going to be in the McKenna sweepstakes, but we can use that asset to make this team better down the line, as opposed to bailing on it now and then crossing your fingers that you aren't a sideways team, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the one. If
it just depends on what kind of guy is going to be available in the middle, mid-season, and is that better than the guys that you might offer sheet, like a Nyes? You were saying Hoffer before. The interesting thing there, by the way, I found 3 hours ago, TSN put out a quote from Doug Armstrong, the GM of the Blues, who said, "We've taken the Boston-Detroit approach last year when they had RFAs. They made sure to leave enough cap space that any offer could be matched." He says, "I'm very comfortable with that we can match any offer if we choose to match it. It won't be we didn't match it because we couldn't afford it. It will be because we didn't match it because we thought the value we were getting back was better, and that value would have to start with a first-round pick, or else we'll just match it." And then he goes on to give a little bit more context there, but very, very clearly, Doug Armstrong right now, looking at the young netminders, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's very real. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Army's a straight shooter, and I listen to him. I hear what he's saying. So I think that's a real thing.
By the way, are we gonna have to worry? I know that it's been mentioned McKenna might go to Penn State. Penn State's been in the conversation.
Yeah.
If McKenna goes to Penn State, does that mean we lose intern Andrew? Because I'm pretty sure that intern Andrew will re-enroll at Penn State for a nonsensical grad program for the year, just so he could live on campus and be there for McKenna.
He will be insufferable. He will be insufferable if McKenna ends up at Penn State.
So do we hope he goes to Michigan State just to stick it to where do we hope?
Michigan.
Fuck it. Whatever. If McKenna goes to Penn State, it would be really interesting, wouldn't it?
Well, it'd be great. It'd be great for Penn State. That'd be awesome for Penn State. So,
Allison with a good question here. When does intern Andrew stop being intern? Never. He is forever intern.
Forever. Just one last thing, and I did a story on this last week. What are you laughing at?
David Waiton, it says, Andrew wants some NIL money to head back to Penn State.
Yeah, that's right. Can we pay that NIL money to send him there?
Oh, that's a good question. Get the Flyers to foot that bill.
Yeah. So that's
our Hexel 87 says he'll ask to become McKenna's intern.
I like it. No, this one's good though. Good point. Flyers Purgatory says Nashville was a playoff team that went out and spent. You think they planned on being the third worst team in the NHL?
That's a fair point. Yeah, totally fair.
Yeah. Anyway, so last thing that I had on my list is I did a story on this over the weekend. I mentioned Danny was down in Miami. Obviously, it was not just for the whole Shabanov thing. They wanted to get eyes on some of these Russian players in person, right? I mean, the way it works, not a lot of teams are able to get eyeballs in person on Russian hockey players. Every team's got a scout that's over there, tries to go, but you're talking about going through the entire, all over Russia to look at these young players and everything else. One guy is kind of doing it, and they only see so much. And the guy the Flyers have, Ken Hudakov, really, really good. I don't know if anybody knows his background, but he was a Canadian who moved over there to kind of, be, for professional reasons, to kind of be this guy. And then the Flyers brought him in as their scout. And, he's very influential over there. And that's a good thing. But you don't get, you're going off of one man's opinion when it comes to picking a Russian player. So Danny went down early. He went down on Thursday. And then on Friday, I was told he reached out to other members of the organization, scouts and front office types, and said, get on a plane, get down here. They wanted to look at some guys. And I think that the Flyers are looking to draft at least one, if not two, Russian players, either late first round or early second round. And I mentioned a few names. I mean, there's some goalies that are there. I know that Semyon Frolov is a guy that they really, really like. I think that they look at him and think that that's a guy that could be a potential possibility. They have a big, rangy defenseman named Kurbin Limatov that they're interested in. I think that's more. I think that's more second round than first round. But the name that I think is the real interesting one is Alexander Zhuravsky.
Yeah.
And I think this guy who played in Russia's top junior league, he is a guy that I think that they're looking at saying probably worth one of those firsts.
Wow.
And I think that's a name that you can look at and say, if they end up staying at 22, possibly. If they end up staying at 31, possibly. I think somewhere in there, they're looking to get that kid. And that could
Hagens,
be
McQueen, Zhuravsky. Hell of a first round. We're going to have a great Friday, Ant.
There you go.
Great Friday.
Yeah, we'll be talking that name, Zhuravsky, until he comes off the board. I can promise you that on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I dig it.
So.
Okay. I think that's probably it for now. I mentioned at the top of the show, you and Bundy did a crossover show with Meltzer and Mertitas at the golf outing, right? The alumni golf outing.
Yeah, we were at the alumni golf outing yesterday, which this is kind of a funny thing, right? So we're at the golf outing and we talked to several former Flyers alumni come on the show, and you guys will get a kick out of it. Like there were some good ones that came in, guys we've had on the show before. Not like these were new ones, but like we had Mike Knuble came on for a little bit, and Mark Howell came on for a little bit, and we had a few others, and it was good. It was a good conversation. It was a fun show. But then that happens, and I leave the golf outing. By the way, 102 degrees. It was a mess yesterday. I don't know how they played a round of golf in that weather yesterday. It was brutal. And I had to do another thing for work. I guess I never really talked about it on this show, but the company that owns On Pattison also owns 15 news sites, and since January, I've been the managing editor of 2 of them. And so we have a pretty big news story that we're working on that I've had to use some it has nothing to do with hockey or baseball. It's not sports related. But I will tell you that there are connections to one of the sports, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, so I'm in this big interview for this story that I'm working on with one of my other reporters there for 2 hours yesterday. And I'm using my phone as part of the interview, right, to record the interview. And so I have my phone down on the table and it's just kind of there. And my watch keeps going off on me. Now I have no idea what's happening because I'm not trying to read it while I'm talking to this individual. And
you don't want to be George H.W. Bush looking at the watch during the debate.
And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, hey, all the text messages that are going off. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, either something happened with the Flyers or the Phillies, or somebody in my family's in a lot of trouble.
And you wouldn't even look at your watch.
And I didn't look at my watch.
Wow.
I didn't look. So finally I get out of the interview. At that point, it's like, I don't know, it was like 1:15, 1:30, whatever time it was. And I saw that it was the Zegras trade. And I was like, well, missed that one.
Yeah.
People are giving me a hard time. Like, how come you're not putting it? This is big news. I'm like, it's already out there. Like, people have already read. The Flyers already put it out there. Like, it was on the Flyers Twitter at that point. What am I supposed to do? Confirm something?
Can confirm
that the Flyers already put this out there. Like, you all saw it, right? So that kind of sucked. But that was kind of what was going through. But that event yesterday was kind of cool. It always is a good event. I give the Flyers alumni. I think it's really. And I asked a couple guys.
Did anybody take video? Was there video with that? Are we gonna have like a video on the channel, or is it just gonna be an audio only episode? I don't even know what the hell we're doing.
Brian Smith had a camera.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah. So I think it was on video.
So the thought I think is that episode's either gonna go up maybe tomorrow. Could be
Tomorrow, I
Thursday. Maybe early next week. Depends on if there's video or not.
It was fun.
It'll definitely go in the podcast feed.
The one thing I always want to say, just want to put out there, is that you look at pro sports teams and former players, and they all come back for whatever alumni weekend or alumni this, alumni that. I don't think that there's an organization in professional sports that has a group of alumni that does as much out there and is as active as the Flyers, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. I give them for all the shit we've given this organization over the years. The one cool thing about them is their alumni are pretty damn awesome, that they do what they do, and that was that was a great event. There were so many guys at that event yesterday. The Sutter brothers came back for that event. Even like smaller name players, like I was like, Andy Delmore is here, right? Like Andy Delmore scored a big goal in the playoffs in 2000 against the Penguins. Brian Dobbin, you want to talk about a name from the past that was there? There's so many guys like that were there, and it's like they just want to be part of it. They just want to give back, and it's kind of a cool thing. So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you guys will enjoy that.
So that should be hitting the feed at some point in the next few days. Depends on when we get that audio. Could also be early next week. The most important thing, Bundy's daughter gets married on Friday. He might be calling us from the dance floor. We will have the show Friday. Did you outline who any of the guests are or no? I forget. It was at the top of the show. For the people who are just joining us. You
just
didn't?
said
Okay.
there would be. I said there will be many guests. I didn't say who the guests were.
I've been told that it's going to be a worthwhile show to pay attention to.
Yes.
People might be very interested to hear from the people that are on the show.
Yes.
Some of them might be first-time guests.
Yes. Yes, there will be first-time guests. 100% will be first-time guests on the show.
Okay.
Yes, 100% on that.
Maybe to any important show ever. Okay. We will be back on Friday. We will have the stream set up on YouTube, Facebook, and X. You can certainly keep up with us there. You can keep up with the show on X as well, at Snow The Goalie. You can find Ant on Twitter, at AntSanFilly. I'm there, at Joy on Broad. Bundy is at CTerien6. Intern Andrew is at Intern Andrew. You can find us Friday. It's going to be a blast down in AC. If you're going to the party, let us know. If you want to meet up at some point, let us know. Until then, this has been Snow The Goalie, the Only Flyers
By the way,
podcast.
I will have a story probably early this evening. Trevor Zegras is going to be talking to us later this afternoon. So for those who want a written version of my take on Zegras, it'll be after we talk to him this afternoon. So
St. Nancy just brought lunch down.
that's nice. You going to eat on camera?
No, I'll wait until we're done the show. She just made what is this? A barbecue chicken? Do you want to come? Do you want to? No. Okay.
Fourth host Nancy going to come on?
And then there's a homemade sprout slaw.
You must love the summer months the most.
I love the summer months. I love the summer months. I do. All right, we'll be back on Friday here on Snow The Goalie, the Only Flyers podcast. Talk to each and every one of you later this week.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.